Okay, welcome back. This is our episode 9 from Tales from the Cassette. I'm Jeff Beach.
I'm Joey Graves.
All right, and this is a podcast where we discuss all things music, mostly from our generation, which is late 70s, 80s, and some 90s. And then we do talk about some new music, but mostly it's music that we discussed during our high school and college years and lots of times in the car. And if you haven't checked out our podcast, we have lots of great ones out there talking about our favorite bands, our favorite concerts, our favorite albums. Today, we're going to do our first specific album review. We're going to talk about one album during the show today. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. It opens up a lot of opportunities to talk about other albums. But we're going to talk about one of our favorite albums from one of our favorite bands, Kiss, that likely saved their legacy, and that is Lick It Up.
Yep.
Right there in the corner. So this album from 1983 is likely the reason that Kiss survived as long as they did, and we continue to see concerts from them all the way up through last year.
Just think about that, Jeff. That's 41 years ago.
Yeah, crazy. I know. There's lots of albums to review. I thought this was your idea to do Lick It Up. I think this is a great option. Obviously, it's the first album they took the makeup off. The band's fortunes had made a turn entering the 80s from Unmasked and then The Elder and then Creatures of the Night, which we'll probably talk about as well. But they weren't selling, and they weren't selling albums. People weren't going to the shows, at least in North America, and things looked a little bit bleak.
Well, I believe it was a series of bad decisions, being maybe going into disco with the Dynasty and Unmasked, and then it was doing The Elder, a concept album, and I think also the musical environment changed. You had hair bands coming on,
yes.
And I guess at this age, Kiss was early to mid 30s,
yep,
and the Bon Jovis and the Poisons were probably early to mid 20s, more accessible, I guess, to those teenage girls and that audience. So,
yeah, I think of that. Talking about that time frame is really important because Kiss had obviously a massive following in the 70s. It's like in 77 they were ranked as the most popular band in North America, if not the world, right around their heyday. And so now we're just 6 years later. So going in, they had Dynasty at the end of the decade of 70s, where I think a lot of their longtime fans were looking and going, what is this? This isn't really the music I like from them. Though they did gain some new fans with I Was Made for Loving You. Then you go into 1980 with Unmasked, which is really unpopular, at least in North America. I think in Australia they love Shandy. But the rest of the album, at least for longtime fans, were looking, going, okay, there's more of things I don't like. Then they had the concept album, The Elder, which I think most of the fans from the 70s probably were like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah. Check it out.
I'm out. That was a fun ride. And then it was interesting. I think we have to talk a little bit about, and we should do another album review of Creatures of the Night, but that album right before this one, they still had their makeup on. Of course, they've lost members, even though Ace Frehley's on that album. He doesn't play on that album. At least I don't think he plays any. He might be on something. If you listen to Paul Stanley interviews, he likes that album more than he likes Lick It Up.
Yeah.
And I tried to think about that. I'm like, okay, let's say they took the makeup off for Creatures and they go release that one. Is that as popular as Lick It Up? Of course, you had the music video where they pop up, and Lick It Up is a very radio friendly song, but if they had taken it off for Creatures, do they see the same thing?
I believe so.
I thought about it, and I thought they're missing a song for Creatures. In Creatures, they released "I Love It Loud." Killer was their second release, and Creatures of the Night was the third. There's no song on there that gets radio airplay.
I Love It Loud is the only one.
Yeah. I think they needed another. And I think if you, really diving deep, if you looked at the songs from Killers, the EP they did, I think if you took I'm a Legend Tonight and you throw that on Creatures and they took the makeup off for that, and that was a release along with I Love It Loud, then maybe.
But you had Vinny at that point.
Right.
Or at least at that point, working with Kiss, co-writing.
Right.
I mean, you could say what you want about Vinnie Vincent.
Yes.
But the man can write a song, or used to be able to write a song. I mean, you could have found a song to put on, right, to add to Creatures.
If you needed another song, I think I agree with you. So we'll have to do an album review of that one, because I was reading up on that one as well as we were putting together, and that's a very interesting album with a lot of guest musicians. Which the funny thing is for Lick It Up, there are not a lot of guest musicians, and there is not a lot of guest writing as much as there was on some of the other albums recently. There was a little bit, but not like what you saw for previous albums. They sort of got back down to who they were. And in fact, I'm looking at the song credits now. According to Wikipedia, every 80s song was written by a member of Kiss and no outside writers. Yep. So,
then again, you had Vinnie Vincent.
You had Vinnie Vincent, and he is prevalent on this album. Only 2 songs is he not a co-writer. So we mentioned this was released in '83. They had only 2 singles off this album. They released "Lick It Up," which was the famous music video where they went on MTV and then took the makeup off, and then they played that video, and then they had "All Hell's Breaking Loose," which they could have filmed the same day because it looks like the same video almost, which is a great song as well. I did mention, they all the songwriters are Kiss, except for, and then they didn't really have a lot of outside musicians except for Rick Derringer, famous for Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo, and a bunch of other things back in the 60s. Did the guitar solo on Exciter to open the album.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not Vinny.
Not Vinny. Which is pretty. I went to look to see, okay, was Rick Derringer a prolific session player in those days? And he was not. So he just somehow ended up on Kiss's Lick It Up album. And if you look at his other credits from around that time, he might have 1 song and maybe 2 or 3 for the whole 5-year period. So he wasn't doing a lot of outside stuff, but for some reason they got him in the studio that day.
Who knows what crowd they could have ran with the same crowd at the time and just got met each other at a party or something. Who knows?
Well, let's kick it off then. And so that's our first song. We're going to do a full album review. We're going to talk about the entire album today, and we're going to go song by song. And so first song on the album. First song, side 1. Exciter. Tell me about it.
Well, I believe it's a great start to an album.
Yep.
Again, it's written by Paul Stanley and Vinnie Vincent. But great kickoff to an album, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I thinking, we'll mix this with Creatures of Light a lot. I think the 2 albums are very much alike. I think for the fans that saw the band in the 70s and realized they were a different band in their early 80s, I think hearing Creatures, which not a lot of people did, because not a lot of that album did not go platinum for a long time. Lick It Up did finally go platinum, but I think a lot of fans that heard Creatures, they were like, oh, Now they're a rock and roll band again. And now I have to look it up. And I think if you saw them on TV and you heard Lick It Up and you really like that song and you go buy this album, this song right out of the gate told you that they are a rock and roll band. They're not screwing around with the pop stuff anymore. And so I think if you liked them in the 70s and you picked this album up, you were all of a sudden very happy with what the new sound you're hearing, especially if you had listened to Creatures and liked the hard rock sound of that.
Yeah, in your face, rock and roll, right from the get go.
Yep.
And I say one thing about Vinny, and I don't know if we're ever going to do anything with Vinny Vincent Invasion, but
I have to.
I never was. I mean, his guitar playing is fine. It's fine. But I don't like all the Bumblebee stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think where Vinny shines are lyrics. Yep. He's a great lyric writer, and you can kind of tell if you look at all his, his discography and his songwriting. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can kind of tell who was in charge of writing the lyrics.
Yes.
Or, I mean, he had to come, to the table with Paul with these lyrics. I mean, and maybe Paul wrote the music around it. I don't know, but I mean, Vinny's in the forefront right here with the lyrics, in my opinion.
Yes. Oh, I agree with you. Yeah, you mentioned that Vinny helped write the song. He's a co-writer on this song, but he did not do the guitar solo. This is where Rick Derringer came in. Kratos solo. I guess Vinny tried the solo. They didn't really like the way he did this one. Of all the songs, this is the only one they didn't feel like he got right, which is why they brought Derringer in. They were probably just trying to keep Vinny in his place initially to make sure he knew this is not his band. But yeah, it's a very, very hard rock, great opener, very loud, great drums. And Paul sounds great on this song. I think it's a good opener.
And I also think this is where Paul's voice starts to mature. Mm-hmm. This is the beginning of, I think with each album after this, Asylum, Crazy Nights, especially Crazy Nights, vocally he was improving with every album.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and then the other part too is we talked about in some of our previous podcasts bad timing for a lot of bands as grunge was taking over around 1990. But for Kiss in this album, this was great timing. The launch of MTV, rock bands were becoming popular, and they were about to explode in the mid 80s with Whitesnake and Motley Crue and Poison and all these bands. So it's a great time to be a hair band and have that look. And so great timing for them to come back, as we saw with their follow-up albums with Animalize that got a lot of play, and then Asylum. Those videos were all over MTV. And this album, I think, kicked that off and brought them back. And again, if they don't put an album out like this around this time, they probably aren't around like we see them, in those mid 80s.
Well, I believe if they didn't take the makeup off for this album, there would have been no Kiss for a while, or the reunion would have happened sooner.
Yes, I agree. Okay, good start, Exciter. Second song on the album is Not for the Innocent, a Gene Simmons song, one of many he has on this album. I think what I thought as I was listening to this album, and listening to Gene's voice on some of the other older albums, and even, the newer Kiss albums, he sort of took his persona of his makeup days and decided, well, if I'm not going to be in that persona, I'm going to sing like I am.
Right.
Yeah.
If you think about it, they fired Vinny. If you listen to the lyrics, they fired Vinny, and then they rehired him years later to help write on Revenge.
Yes.
The lyrics on Not for the Innocent are quite similar to lyrics that you would find later on Unholy.
Yes.
I'm mean and I'm dirty. like none you've ever seen. Bad habits drip like honey. No tongue can lick me clean. I mean, that is better lock up your daughters. We're coming to your town. We're here for the slaughter. Kick you when you're down. I mean, that's unholy to me.
That voice that he used, he kind of started singing in this gravelly, scratchy voice. He wasn't screaming, but where he was yelling, whereas some of the other songs he was, he obviously can change his voice for the song. And so this entire album, I think he adopted that, loud voice for that. And this song, this is really good. Drums on this are great. The guitar solo is really good by Vinny. Great song right out of the gate behind Exciter. Again, another hard rocker. You're a Kiss fan, you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I'm impressed. 2 songs in.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you heard the demo with Paul and Gene vocal, they share vocals?
On this song?
Yes.
Is it on one of those box sets?
Yeah, it's on the Creatures box set.
I'll have to go back and listen to it.
It's good because it's different.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they made the right decision. I don't know if Michael James Jackson was the one that decided this, but just Gene alone, I think is better. But go back and listen to that. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, and that Creatures box set does have a lot of great stuff on it. Songs that didn't make it, songs that were close. That combined with some of the songs off Killers, the 4 songs on there that could have been on Creatures or saved for this. There were some really good songs around that time.
So, like, take for example on the shared vocal version with Paul. Paul sings, "Gonna tan your hide, rip the flesh off your bones, look me in the eye, you're gonna turn to stone."
Yeah,
that's not something Paul would sing.
No, he didn't write those lyrics.
No, it's cool. I mean, because like I said, it's different to hear Paul singing it, but that's not him. So, but of course, he wrote "God of Thunder" as well. Paul Stanley did. So
that's true. Yeah. All right. So the next song, and so I can't remember for sure, but I'm assuming that the video for "Lick It Up" and the single all were released before the album. And probably that's at least what they used to do in those days. But "Lick It Up," the video for this song is great because the whole first part of the song, they're walking down this street and you can't see their faces because they are doing their unveiling. And then as they go into the chorus, then it goes to their faces.
I remember waiting to see the video on NBC Friday night videos. And I waited up. Here I was, 13 years old.
Uh-huh.
Waited up to watch that, and I loved it. The anticipation, because I didn't have MTV yet. So that was my only time. I didn't see the unmasking. I didn't, had never seen them. I wasn't a big magazine person either. So
yeah, this
was my introduction into Kiss with no makeup.
Yeah, and this is
Friday night videos.
Yeah, this is a simple song. There's not a lot to the song itself.
No, there's not.
But it is what fit in great with the 80s and hair bands and the type of songs, and that they were very singable, very danceable songs. And this was perfect for them because it got them attention from their fans and also other people that maybe had left them, or people that weren't Kiss fans were like, "Oh, this is a good song. This isn't a heavy metal song."
But you think about it, "Lick It Up" and "Heaven's on Fire" on Animalize.
Yes.
Super simple chord structure. Mm-hmm. I think someone could probably learn how to play "Lick It Up" within the first 5-10 minutes of someone showing them how it's played. But they're super simple. Goes back to their name, Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, so this was a perfect song. I think got them the attention back. This is what propelled them forward. A lot of questions about what the song means. Or is it trying to take everything that you can get, or is it some sexual reference? Depending on what you read, it could be both.
Yeah.
Could be both. Okay, moving along, we got another Gene song. So they alternated a lot here until later in the album. Young and Wasted.
It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I actually prefer the on Animalize Live where they have Eric Carr singing this.
Yep.
I prefer that.
I guess during their concerts, maybe on the Lick It Up tour, or maybe it was only when they went to Animalize and they were still playing this song, Eric Carr sang this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should have had him sing it on the album.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think he was a writer for this song. Let me find out.
No, Young and Wasted? No. It's Simmons and Vincent.
Yeah, Simmons and Vincent. So, yeah, I think this song's, it's okay. Another Gene song. I think, except for Not for the Innocent and On the Eighth Day, I think a lot of Gene songs sound similar. Like he was maybe in the studio and did them all on the same day.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's okay. This was okay, I thought.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. Next song is Gimme More.
Lyrics definitely written by Vinny.
Yes.
If you've ever heard Vinny's first album, Vinny Vincent Invasion, the first album, where everything was, sexual.
Mm-hmm.
This is uber sexual.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an odd song. I mean, as a 13-year-old, a horny 13-year-old, it was cool. Maybe as a 54-year-old, it's a bit more cringeworthy. I don't know. I guess that's when you're old, when the things you used to like are now, make you cringe.
Yeah, I had read this in another review and noticed it as well. They had a habit in a number of their albums during the 80s of doing these fast-paced, hard songs that are very similar. This one, Gimme More. There's a couple on Animalize that are like that, and then Asylum that are like that, and really fast-paced. This one review it's not really speed metal, but the drums are fast. They were playing their songs fast in concerts back then.
Yeah.
This is what that is. That's what this one's similar to that.
I mean, like I said, it's Vinny because it's like, here's a sample. Like a dog to a bone, make you sweat, make you moan.
Yeah.
Love is sweet, so insane. Come on, lick my candy cane.
Yeah, that's straight off of Vinnie Vincent album.
Yeah, but that's got to be Vinny.
Yes, I agree with you. Now, so from the album, we're moving over to side 2. So there are 5 songs on each side. I love the kickoff of side 2, All Hell's Breaking Loose.
I would dare to say that's probably my favorite song on the album.
Yeah, it is a really good song. I guess it's their rap song that they did, and they tried to do another one later on I think it was in Hot and Shade. This is their Pour Some Sugar on Me, Def Leppard song that should have been bigger. This song is really good. Paul's rapping or speaking, however you want to do it. He's not really singing, but it is just a good hard rock song. Not fast. But great guitar right out of the gate. That which gets played throughout the song.
Well, I'd heard that I read somewhere that this was actually Eric Carr came with a demo,
Yeah, I did hear that.
and I guess they liked it, and so they, according to also what I read, is that Paul and Gene and Vinny, I guess, bastardized his vision of the song, but he was just a hired hand, so he went along with it. But I think it turned out well. One of the things that I think Kiss was trying to do is, I think they lost that dangerous. Kiss was dangerous with a Dynasty and Unmasked and Elder, and I think they were trying to reestablish themselves as a dangerous rock band. So I mean, it's all hell's breaking loose. I mean, you got the sexual songs like Exciter and Give Me More and Young and Wasted, Not for the Innocent.
Right.
And then
with the dark theme from the Makeup Days.
Yep.
They're still a scary band, and they're not supposed. Your parents aren't supposed to like them.
Yep. That's exactly what they were going for.
That band. That's one of my favorite songs. Whenever that comes on the radio, I love that song. Next song is probably one of their most underrated songs, I think.
I agree.
Million to One.
I agree.
Perfect Paul Stanley song.
This was about his breakup with Donna Dixon, who was in Bosom Buddies with Tom Hanks.
Yes. Great song. Great singing song for him. I am really surprised this was not released as a single, especially with their popularity around that time, that this one didn't come out after All Hell's Breaking Loose. I think this could have made them even bigger by putting this out later. They started Lick It Up and then All Hell's Breaking Loose. But I think this would have been a good song and would have got play.
But you think about it, when it comes to hair bands, the power ballad had really not started. The love of power ballads had not started yet.
Yeah.
You still had like Talk Dirty to Me from Poison. You still had, something off of Bon Jovi or whatever. So a power ballad wasn't. They weren't established yet. So if this had been released 3 years later, I think it would have fit right in, and it would have been a hit.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, if you think about the rock bands that were releasing around '83, you had Def Leppard releasing Rock of Ages, and that there were really no slow songs around there. Hysteria was still a few years away. Bon Jovi.
Love Bites hadn't been released. Every Rose Has Its Thorn hadn't been released.
Right. Bon Jovi was still doing Runaway and so they hadn't got to their songs with Slippery When Wet. So you're right. Yep. Yeah, they really the power ballad was not yet in existence. So maybe you're right. It's not really a ballad, but it does sort of sound like one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does sound like one. It is a great song. Great Paul Stanley song.
Yep. Absolutely agree.
Yeah. It would have been nice to see a video for that one. And maybe why they didn't do it is they were like, okay, we've made our transition back to a rock band, Creatures. Now this album, we're accepted again. We're not going to tell them we're doing power ballads. Okay. Now, in a very strange twist of the way Kiss did things, Gene Simmons has the final 3 songs on the album, which is very strange. I'd love to hear. I couldn't find anything on why that is, because they don't really do that on any other albums. They're not like their great songs that had to be included. I would love to see the discussion around. There had to be a Paul song somewhere around there they could have put on here. But usually they go back and forth at least. So final 3 songs, Gene Simmons songs. None of them would be released. I don't think they played. Maybe they played Fits Like a Glove in concert. I could see them doing a little bit of that, at least the opening riff. But what do you think of this one?
It's okay. Again, like a hard rock, very, very similar to Young and Wasted, I believe.
Yes.
very much in the same vein as that. Um,
Yeah.
Again, this is not a co-write with Vinny, but it's
It sounds like it with the hot
yeah,
knife through butter.
yeah, that's yeah. Yeah, it does sound like it. You can see some similarities to
Hmm.
Vinny's kind of writing, but it's.
Yeah.
I think it's probably it may be the one of the worst songs on the album.
Yeah, I do like the opening, the initial riff, and
Yeah.
then as it breaks down into the song. Okay, well, the next song, love song, "Dance All Over Your Face."
Yeah, I had
I
this
don't
played
know.
at my. I played this at my wedding.
Did you? Okay.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Not a
I
love
don't know.
song.
I don't know. I don't know that they would ever. I've never heard them talk about this song. I don't know that they like this song. It's a little violent. It doesn't really fit with today's world. In fact, yeah, it's not a great song.
I don't mind "Dance All Over Your Face." It's just because Gene is his delivery is different than his typical song.
Hmm.
It's more like a talking deep
Yeah.
voice. Hey
Yes.
baby, I know it's a jungle out there.
Right. Yeah. He wasn't yelling like he was on a couple of the other songs that
Right.
were. Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. When I had this on cassette, and I also had the album back in the day, um, I would not play this song a whole lot.
Yeah, I like it. It's fine.
I would always skip
It's
over it because
past.
I really liked the next song. I really liked the
On
next. I liked how the next song went and had different beats throughout the song, um, and that is on the eighth day. This sounds like it could have been. I forgot to see who wrote this one because it feels like it could have been.
Simmons Vincent.
Yeah, feels like it has some Paul Stanley writing in it as well.
It just lists Simmons and Vincent on it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I like this song, and it's got.
yeah,
He's kind of talking through some of the song lyrics, and then the chorus is more of a regular chorus, and then they go back to they're sort of talking through the lyrics. Yeah, I thought this was a good ending song. When I would have the album, I would typically play "Lick It Up," and then I would skip to "All Hell's Breaking Loose" and "A Million to One," and then I would go to this song.
it ends with "You sold your soul and virginity. You can't rape a heart of gold.
Yeah,
Because you're born to rule. It's destiny. Now it can be told."
yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, beautiful.
I think it's so deep it has to be Vinny.
Yeah, right. It does sound like a Vinny Vincent. Yeah, I would say it's a good finish to this album. I think when we talked about some of our favorite Kiss albums, this one was either on the list or right behind the top 5 for both of us. And certainly one of their better albums, especially from the 80s, but also, Save the Band.
But you know what? I listened when we did our rankings. I listened to all the Kiss albums,
Mm-hmm.
and I listened to Lick It Up again several times leading up to this discussion. And I would say it may not be as good as I thought it was.
Really? Okay.
And it may have dropped down a couple.
Part of
It's
the
good.
problem with it, yeah, it's good. Part of the
It's good.
problem, it seems like there's a lot of filler on this album. Like the 4 I mentioned, I think and even maybe Exciter on there as well, are really, and not for the instant, but when you put Young and Wasted, Give Me More, Fits Like a Glove, Dance All Over Your Face, those 4 could have been dropped.
Yeah.
So yeah, they could have been. So when you think about that, and so you're down to 6 good songs, that hurts.
So if I mean just imagine if they had kept Vinny,
Mm-hmm.
and you had if you were able to take Animalize and Lick It Up,
Yep.
and make one solid album,
Mm-hmm.
That would have been a great album.
Well, I guess when I was reading about this, I guess at the end of this, and of course, they get to the tour, and Vinny won't stop playing, and
Won't
Paul's
sign a
had enough.
contract.
Yeah, Paul's had enough, and fires him. And I guess as they were regrouping for the next album, and Mark St. John's coming in, I guess Vinny came back and said, I have some songs and I want to make up. And Paul and Gene said, no way. Yeah.
Well, I read that, I guess in an interview, Vinny said he came back with 7 demos.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ever listen to Vinny Vincent Innovation's debut album,
Mm-hmm.
he came back with Boys Are Gonna Rock, Shoot You Full of Love, Back on the Streets, Twisted, Animal, I Want to Be Your Victim, and Do You Want to Make Love?
Yeah.
So
could have been on Animalize.
Back on the Streets would have been fantastic. I could do without Twisted or Animal, but
I could see Animal. That could easily be a Kiss song.
Yeah, a Gene. But you hear Robert Fleischman sing it on Animalize. He sang those songs so high.
Yes.
How would Paul and or Gene be able to do?
Like. Yeah,
I mean, they'd have to tune it down big time.
Oh yeah, which had been interesting to hear. Yeah, I agree with you. So, but it's funny how slight changes to a song makes all the difference. I meant to send you this, and maybe I'll post it to our Facebook page. Somebody went out and redid "Turn on the Night" on
Frank and something. Yeah.
Did you listen to that?
Yeah, I've listened to it. Yep.
It is outstanding. And for a song that's average, it made that song great. And if they could have done without the keyboards on Crazy Nights, that album might have been a lot better.
Yeah. And also, I think if they would have sucked it up, I don't know, at least they obviously saw the talent in Vinnie Vincent.
Yes.
The songwriting talent in Vinnie Vincent.
Right.
If Mark St. John was a complete mistake,
right,
brought nothing to the band, nothing. If they had just kept with Vinny a little longer, man, Animalize would have been so good.
So good.
And then maybe parted ways after that. But
yeah, because you can see once they had Bruce Kulick in the band, which they knew him. I never quite understood why they didn't have him in there, since they knew him so well from his brother, and his brother basically playing ghosts throughout the late 70s and 80s on the band. They obviously knew him, and yeah, he turned out to be a great fit through the 80s.
Oh yeah,
yeah, great fit. So yeah, I think Animalize could have been a lot better if they had done that. Now, I mean, Animalize had some great songs on it, and so continued to get them airplay. The Animalized concert video was extremely popular. So it, so they did pretty well. But if they had that 4-strong member, they might have been bigger.
Yep.
Agree. All right. Well, this is great. I love talking about the album like this. And so, especially these albums that we know so well, and go back to dive into them. We will have to do this again. And not just with Kiss. We could do this. I mean, if we do album reviews, we could go for years.
We could.
I got several back here behind me that we could go talk about for a long time. Toto Isolation.
Yeah.
That would be a good one.
Sorely underrated album.
Sorely underrated album.
Isolation by Toto was fantastic. It was fantastic, and was it released in '84?
Yeah,
and it's just as good 40 years later. So
I listen to that one all the time. All right,
yep, I do too.
We will come up with our next one soon. It's been a bit of a break. Thanksgiving messed us up. We're a little bit longer, but we're going to do better over the holidays. We'll have some new things to listen to. I did want to mention, so a friend of mine's son is in a band called Birdleaf. So I was going to
What is it?
recommend to you
Spell it.
Birdleaf. It is Birdleaf, one word. They have an EP out called Garble with 4 songs. So I was going to recommend you go listen to that before the next podcast. We will comment on it. So 4 songs, short songs, released November 1st. So it's hot off the press.
Okay, I'll give it a listen.
College
on Spotify kids. Or is it on Spotify?
Okay, right. College age kids. I will send you the link. We'll talk about it a little bit during our next podcast. But I wanted to mention that today. And then we will be back before the end of the year. We'll promise to do another show and get that out there. That was good. Look It Up's great album. Save the Band. Probably at the base of it, probably my favorite Kiss song is Lick It Up.
Really?
Yeah.
Mine's Tears Are Falling.
Yeah. This one's right here with Heaven's on Fire and it's right there on that list.
Yeah. So there's of course a very famous podcast, Three Sides of the Coin, that they always talk about. Did Vinny save Kiss? Mm-hmm. What would be your answer to that question?
I think his songwriting did. I don't think his guitar playing necessarily did, because you don't really see what he can do in the band. But his songwriting certainly did. Now, he's all over this album. Now on Creatures, he was. I had the list here. He was on some of them, and Creatures is a great album, which I think you were saying is better. So they could do it without him. I think it was just a matter of time for them when they were going to take the makeup off and match the music that could be played on MTV.
Right. I think the removal of the makeup saved Kiss at that time, but I think they also had the music.
Yes.
Because of Vinny, to back it up.
Yeah.
And that would be approachable to the masses.
Right. Yeah. Vinny wrote "I Love It Loud," "I Still Love You," "Killer" from Creatures. So there's some great songs like "War Machine" that he wasn't on. So they know how to do it, and they went all in with him on these in "Lick It Up." But yeah, I don't think he saved them, but he certainly helped them get to the masses.
We'll talk about it some other time, but like War Machine and Rock and Roll Hell.
Yes.
Bryan Adams. You never would suspect Bryan Adams would write War Machine or Rock and Roll Hell.
I love the fact that Bryan Adams has now embraced that and from those days and has released his own singles of War Machine and Rock and Roll Hell.
And in my opinion, not very good. Not very good versions.
They were okay. They were
I tried to listen to them. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, they were kind of. His video for War Machine is pretty funny to watch. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's going to be it. Appreciate you listening. Please go like our YouTube page, like our Spotify page, share this, listen, like it, save it. If you have recommendations, give us some comments. If you would like us to do an album review or a different type of show, please let us know. Happy to do anything. I got Atlanta rhythm section right here. We can go deep if we have to go deep. We got there's lots of music background in this room of listening, so we can go all over the place.
Yes, we can.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. And with that, we'll see you next time.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. We'll see you later.